Yo, it's Noah. It's been a while. I spent like 10 minutes trying to find a good camera angle, and I settled for the classic directly in front. Sometimes I like to do off to the side, or like sometimes I thought about doing like a Dutch angle, but I decided against that. Um, my cats might be a little distracting in the background, but we'll make do. It's been a while. I think they're chasing each other. Um, Not because of anything crazy. I just, I work 32 plus hours a week. I take classes at a local university. So I'm just really busy. I've been trying to stay actively reading. I think I have ended up only posting on this channel like once a month, which sometimes I have those dreams of like, oh, what if I start posting every day and then get like a little small following of people that consistently watch? Because I've ran into the problem where I have one video that got like 4,500 views, and then people expected a certain thing out of me that I never ended up giving them. But that's just life. So like my subscriber count is slowly dropping, which is fine. But I just kind of wanted to do like a little check-in, monthly check-in, whatever you're gonna call it from now on. This video is mostly inspired by a video Carl from Please Read Your Book just posted, I think, today or yesterday. I'm out of the loop on BookTube. It was a Read What You Own. He went over Train Dreams and another novel that I forget the name of right now. But it was the ending notes of the video that really stuck with me, and it kind of resonated with me in like a relatable sense. Not to make it about me, but to paraphrase what he said, hey, you don't need to buy any more Brandon Sanderson books. You don't need to buy any more Andy Weir books. He already has his money. You need to take risks. You need to branch out. And I kind of took it as like trust your own intuition, trust your own taste, trust your interests. And I thought that was super important. And so I guess my beginning preamble for this video is, for context, I left a comment on Carl's video, but for context, I've always been a reader, but then I would say probably around, so I'm 28, but probably around 21, 22, just got busy working. I kind of had like a weird workaholic phase where I was just working like 5, 6, 7 days a week, doing 2 jobs, and I didn't really read anymore, to be honest. I read like 2 books a year. I really just stopped actively reading. And when I got back into things, just a few years ago, really, I would say I picked it back up probably when I hit like 24, 25. I leaned super heavily on YouTube, book recommendations. I mean, at one point, I don't use this account as much, but I used to have another account on YouTube that I did like gaming videos on. And on that account, I've probably followed 45 or 50 booktubers at one point, like dove headfirst into that culture. The only problem I ran into is, not to sound abrasive, but I just found out I only really care about 5 of those people and what they put out. That sounded very rude, but I figured out that I only really bothered watching like 5 channels, probably roughly. This might be a little bit snarky, but it's mostly smaller channels I rely on now for discussion and analysis and recommendations, because I feel like once you start getting to a certain subscriber count, and I can't put a number on that, but a certain count, a certain number, I don't want to say these people lie or cheat or steal. That's not it. They don't do that. But they just let the algorithm take them. And that's fine. I don't blame anybody for doing that. I mean, I can't blame anybody for applying to a good job and getting it. I'm not mad. But I just find a lot of the smaller channels have more niche books that I haven't heard of. They're not talking about Project Hail Mary for the 1 millionth and 12th time. They're not recommending Brandon Sanderson books that I see those all the time. Nothing wrong with those books. Actually, I've never read either of those examples, but I'm sure I'd like them. But I just find that smaller channels like Carl's, there used to be a channel I watched called KC is Reading. Her channel has no content on it anymore. I really liked her channel. There's Johnny Meeks. I think he's like an older man. I might have gotten the name wrong, but he reads a lot of stuff that I've just never heard of. I know I know his background. He's a Christian, and so as someone who used to go to church and then doesn't as an adult, but then sometimes kind of looks back and I'm like, why did I go to church? Why did my mom force me to go? His kind of background I find interesting to just say. I don't know. That's a whole other topic, but religion itself is like, sometimes I kind of just want to know about religion, but I don't follow a religion. I don't know if that makes sense. I probably shouldn't have even said that. But, no, but yeah, moral of the story is I rely on a lot of smaller channels now, and then no offense to the smaller channels, but I might only watch, if you put out 5 videos a week, I might only watch 2 or 3 of them. Just because I started leaning into my own taste, into my own interests. Yes, do I think book recommendations are bad? No, obviously they serve a purpose. I would say a quarter or half of what I buy is probably some sort of recommendation, but I feel like it's better if you find yourself down a rabbit hole of getting the same John Williams books recommended, the same Lonesome Dove, Brandon Sanderson, Andy Weir, Dan Brown, stuff like that. Maybe walk into a bookstore and literally like have no goal in mind. Just look at the shelves, look at the spines, maybe have a few publishers, whether it's Penguin, Deep Vellum, Seven Stories Press, University Presses. Have those on your mind as you're looking for them, and go off of that. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll just kind of have like publishers in my mind, and I'm like, oh, this book is a NYRB. I'm gonna look at it. Cool. I'm gonna buy it. My cats are fighting. I just find it better, so I don't even really watch much BookTube anymore. I'm kind of that guy that posts like once a month that doesn't actually watch what he's posting about. I know, right? But I've just found it more fulfilling to just lean into my own taste. If I'm interested in chemistry one day and I happen to be at a bookstore, buy a book about chemistry. I don't know, that's a crazy example, but yeah, my cats are done fighting, I think. But that's about the only point I have to make. I think you will probably be more fulfilled if you lean into your own taste more so than reading everything else is reading. Obviously, if you start your YouTube channel and you want to make it big, there's nothing wrong with that. Then you can lean into like the Stoners, Butcher's Crossings, the Project Hail Marys, things like that. But I genuinely just post on here when I feel like I have something to say, and I just feel like I read whatever the hell I want. I feel like if you know this channel, half the stuff I half the stuff I post is books that no one is searching and no one probably gives a damn about, but I don't really care. So I'm going into what I've been reading recently. A lot of this is for class, but some of it is just whatever. Yeah, so I have like a stack of books next to me, some on the desk. I'm actually about to give a bunch of books to a little free library. I'm also big, another point I want to make, I'm also big, it's 9 minutes into the video and I've said a lot, I've talked a lot, but I haven't said shit, and I'm sorry. But another thing I've noticed is, as a broke college student, I found out that I would rather have quality over quantity. So I used to be that guy that would buy I used to have a job where I got a lot of tips, and so I'd go home and have just wads of cash in my pocket, and I would go buy I'd go to the bookstore and buy mass market paperbacks and cheap paperbacks. And at one point I had a pretty sizable, see the wall behind me? That was the whole wall would be just full of books, and I kind of just got to the point where I only read a quarter of them. So I have sold and given away a crap ton of my old books, even if they're ones I kind of was that's kind of cool, or oh, that book has a cool cover. I would just say, you know what, no, gotta get rid of it. And so I'm kind of downsizing my library to the point where I'm whenever I pass away, whenever that is, tomorrow or 99 years from now, I kind of want to have like a small but very curated library, and I know that's really pretentious, but I don't really care. Um, but so I recently watched the new Netflix film of Frankenstein, and this is probably a sin, but actually, I don't think, even going back years ago, trying to remember, I don't think I've ever read Frankenstein, like ever. And I'm a 28-year-old who went through the school system in the US. So I bought this Barnes and Noble Penguin Classics, the 1818 text. I'm sure someone would argue that I think it's the 1836. It's probably better, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start from the beginning, start from the oldest, and then if I want to keep reading, go to the newest and see how they compare. This came out. I bought this after the movie, so you got the little weird, like, annoying Netflix symbol, which I kind of hate. It's not like an actual sticker. So I've thought about maybe reading this and then like buying a used copy somewhere and giving this away. So far, I really like this. Kind of seems like maybe a really old version of the monsters were really us all along kind of story. I know there's a lot of feminism wrapped in with Mary Shelley. I think I see some of that, but I'm still kind of digesting the book. One thing I find interesting, and it's a very Captain Obvious observation, is, you know, a lot of newer books I read that come out in the last couple of years, I don't know if it's just the way we talk and the time we live in, but sometimes I feel like the prose feels very conversational, which is probably natural. But then I'll read a book that's a couple hundred years old and I'm like, oh, there's all these big words. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure maybe people talked like that back then, but in a way it kind of forces you to focus. You're like, oh, they're using all these words that we don't use anymore, and I'm having to like actually focus on my reading. So in a way I like it. Sometimes it gets a little purple prosy, but it's, you know, it keeps you engaged. So that's book number one. This book I'm about to show next is actually a book I bought kind of to supplement some stuff I'm reading in my medieval literature class. In that class, we've read like Beowulf, the Lays of Marie de France. We've read a little bit of like old Renaissance poetry, like Fulk Greville or Fulk Greville, however you say it. George Gascoigne. I don't know how you say all these names. Sir Philip Sidney, all those people. Some Canterbury Tales, some Battle of Malden. So this is Christopher de Hamel's, oh, that's a bad glare, Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts. And this just talks about, I think it's 12 manuscripts from the medieval times and just their stories, how they came to be, how they've traveled, which is a thing I kind of forgot, is some of these manuscripts have like traded hands a bunch of times and they're still in like pretty good condition. They've traveled like thousands, or not thousands probably, but like hundreds of miles, and now there's pages missing that no one will ever know what happened, or stuff got stolen. But this has the Codex Amiatinus, the Codex, yeah, the really fat book right here. That's like way bigger than it looks too. That, like this right here, is probably like the size of my desk. You got the Book of Kells. You have the Gospels of St. Augustine in here. You got like pictures. Super dope book. It's like one of my slow reads. Like we read like 10, 20 pages a day. You know, it's like a 500-page book. You got like this other drawing of some soldiers going up a mountain. It's super dope. Really cool. There's the Morgan Beatus in here, which is actually a manuscript that was bought eventually by J.P. Morgan, which I was like, oh, that's a name I remember. Yeah, the book the page I'm on right now is about the Morgan Beatus. Yeah, really cool book. I just kind of walked into Barnes and Noble and was like, I'm gonna go to the history section, and I'm going to look until I just say like that's the one. And this ended up being the one. Next book, I think I went over this a couple videos ago, but this is Beowulf, the Howell D. Chickering edition, the one that has the Anglo-Saxon and then, you know, modern English next to it. Super dope. Beowulf is actually, I read this in high school, and then I came back to it this last, like, I think this is one of the first books we read in that class I'm talking about. It's actually really cool. There's a lot of heroic ethos in it, some kind of words, deeds, themes, which basically just means if you can walk the walk, or if you can talk the talk, can you walk the walk? I mean, I don't really want to sit here and go on about Beowulf. It's Beowulf. One of my classmates, interestingly enough, got the Seamus Heaney translation, and I think that's like one of the more famous ones, and she hated it. She's just like, oh, like the Chickering one is so much more like flowery and cinematic, whereas like the Heaney verse she had for us to, look at was just like blah, 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 blah. This happened, that happened. And I was like, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I haven't read it myself, but the next book is the Lays of Marie de France. This is just a book of Breton lays, which I'm not a medieval scholar, so it's just song. I think it's poems/songs meant to be orated with like a harp or some other instrument, like a lute maybe in the background. Usually they are demonstrations of courtly love, not Courtney love, but courtly love with an L. And I mean, I don't really remember a ton of them, but I do remember them being like, they're kind of funny. There's one about a dude turning into a werewolf. They're also kind of misogynistic, which is, I mean, it's the time. But there's one about a guy, I think it's Eliduc, turning into a werewolf. And then when his wife or his lady's like, hey, that guy's a werewolf, like, you need to investigate him, they just basically, they imprison her because they think she's crazy. Yeah, there's one where a guy turns into a nightingale. That's about all I remember. Oh, this isn't really a book. I mean, it is, but I also have an Italian class, so having to learn some Italian, that's fun. I'm not going to say Italian right now, or speak in Italian. For class, I also had to pick up the complete poetry and select. Damn, this won't focus. There it goes. Of John Milton. So you got On Christ's Nativity. You got A Mask. You got On Shakespeare. You got all the books of Paradise Lost. If it'll focus. And I mean, I so far enjoy it. So I will admit, like, sometimes I do have a little bit of difficulty kind of going back just because language changes, linguistics change, and so sometimes I have to get into like a flow state before I can read an older work and really like get it, But it seems like John Milton's Paradise Lost, which is what I'm reading right now for class, definitely there's a council, something about, he does focus on a lot of Satan. I know one of my class's questions is like, why do you think Milton focuses so much on Satan instead of the opposite? And I don't have an answer for that. I probably should by tomorrow. But yeah, I enjoy it so far. I definitely read differently when it's for class than just like active reading on my own time. I think for class, I don't know, this might be bad, but for class, I kind of read just to kind of get it over with. And if my classmates are like, hey, this is what I picked up from the book, usually I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. But yeah, another work I'm reading is, I've been on and off reading it for a while, is Elizabeth Bishop's Geography 3, a book of poetry. I really enjoy Elizabeth Bishop. I don't think a ton is known about her. She seemed very, very private. She died, I think, in the 80s or 90s. I might be wrong, though. Just kind of looked like a quaint old lady. One of her famous poems is One Art. There's one called The Moose. In the Waiting Room is a cool poem, too. I would recommend her poetry. She also has a one called Sestina that I really like. I don't even know. What's funny is I don't really know what to do, like what resonates with me. I think because a lot of poetry, I think it just depends on my mood. I've read a lot of rhyming poetry, and though rhyming's kind of just fun in my opinion, but her poems seem to kind of just take whatever form complements them, whether it's sestinas or has a little bit of a loose rhyme scheme. But her poems are very human. I think she's known for having a very exacting sense of detail. Like a lot of her poems kind of just go into like the really small minutia of really small things in the world and what's going on in her life. And it's one of those things where I feel like you can read an Elizabeth Bishop poem, and you're like, I've been in this situation before, but I've never noticed this, or I've never thought about it like that. And I really enjoy her for that. Trying to think if I might start reading. You can barely see it. It's right there. I might start reading the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings. Oh, I also read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. That's a really cool book. The Bob and Wheel rhyme scheme is super dope. I think it's Lud's Castle or Lud's Cavern is like allegedly one of the places the Green Chapel might be. And I looked it up on the internet, and I looked at the Google images, and I was like, damn, I'd like to live there. It's like I don't know what the word is. It's like a Wikipedia picture where it's like wall of rocks, and they're both like super mossy and green, and it's just like a neon green like passageway in real life. It's super cool. I read the Canterbury Tales. What's not to love about the Canterbury Tales? It's really funny, low key. But yeah, that's about it. I don't really have much else to say, so I'm just going to end it right there. Thank you for watching. I know it's been a long time. Thanks.